What's going on, guys? It's Aperio, no life Pokemon player, and welcome to my journey of can I beat Pokemon Crystal while only using signature moves. I should probably explain what the signature move is. It's a move that only one evolution line of Pokemon can learn via level up or TM. For example, Darkrai is the only Pokemon that can learn Dark Void naturally, so is Darkrai's signature move. Now for the rules of this challenge. In battle I can only use signature moves. I can't use any items in battle, and of course, no glitches or exploits are allowed. Here's a chaotic overview of all Pokemon with a signature move. Although this looks like a lot of Pokemon, there are very few options for this challenge. Some learn their signature moves at a outrageously high level, like Outrage for the Dratini line. Some signature moves are useless status moves, like Chansey Soft Boiled, and there are a lot of Pokemon that I can't catch until the postgame. The worst one of all is Moltres, which only in this generation has the signature move Sky Attack, but you can't even catch Moltres in these games. I think this challenge should still be doable, so let's just jump right into it. Unfortunately, I can't start with a signature move. Yes, both Delibird and Misdreavus have a signature move at level 1, but it felt wrong to change the starters for this run. Instead, I immediately caught a Rattata and normally played through the early game with it until the first gym battle. Just before I got there, Rattata learned Hyper Fang, the first signature move of the run, and with that and the level advantage, Falkner was no problem at all. Rattata evolved into Eradicate while battling the Azalea gym trainers, and the added power from its evolution made the second gym battle a breeze as well. However, I then ran into a problem. Sep, my rival, aka DashingSceptile, had a Ghastly and I only had normal type moves at this moment, so I couldn't hit it. Luckily I could backtrack a bit, catch a Weedle, evolved into a Beedrill, grind up to level 20 where it learns Tweedle, our second signature move. Ghastly still takes 4 times less damage from bug type moves, but the level advantage was enough to easily take it down. Somehow my confused Raticate went down to Crocodile, but Beedrill saved the day. Next up was Whitney, who luckily didn't have any ghost types, and with the help of a flinch and a miss, Raticate had an easy sweep. Next up was the ghost type specialist Morty, and I knew this battle was gonna be very hard, so I did some preparations. First I got a Paras, which later learned Spore and evolved into Parasect. While grinding up my Beedrill, I also came across an Execute with a signature move Barrage, although that wasn't gonna be helpful against Morty. Before fighting him, there was another rival battle. I had to take down his Haunter with Tornado again, but Raticate could handle the rest pretty easily. Then it was time for Morty. The strategy was fairly simple. Use Spore to put his Pokemon to sleep, then slowly chip away with Tweedle. It worked flawlessly against Ghastly and the first Haunter, but Gengar woke up before going down. However, I gave my Beedrill a one-time use berry to heal off sleep, and the rest of the hypnosis attacks missed, so Gengar still went down and the last Haunter wasn't a problem either. Before the gym I also traded an Abra for a Machop, which later learned the signature move Vital Throw and then evolved into Machoke. Against Chuck, I put his Primeape to sleep with Spore as well and then finished it with Eradicate's Hyper Fang. I used Spore once again against Poliwrath, and this time my newly acquired Machoke managed to seal the deal with Vital Throw. The same Machoke also helped out a ton against Jasmine, the main reason I got it. Magnemite was faster but missed the Thunder Wave, so for the next one I went into Parasect first to make sure Machoke wouldn't get paralyzed, so that I could more easily take down the Steelix. Vital Throw barely was enough for the 3-shot, but Spore from Parasect again came in clutch, giving Machoke enough time. Next up was Price, and again Machoke put in a lot of work. Seal and Dugong weren't much of a problem, but Aurora Beam from Dugong did drop my attack, so for Piloswine I used Raticate instead, which only needed to land 2 Hyper Fangs because of a critical hit, so only 1 badge remains. Time for yet another rival battle, and to be honest, not much changed. Hunter was still the biggest problem, but the Spore Tornado combo was enough to take care of it, and the rest wasn't a big threat. Shortly after that, Raticate actually learned a second signature move, Super Fang, and I caught the Delibird with Present for the memes. Let's see if we can get our 8th badge. After putting the first Dragonair to sleep with Spore, I went into Machoke and took down the first 2 Dragonairs with it. I did get paralyzed, and against the third Dragonair I got fully paralyzed twice in a row, but Machoke lived on 4 HP and landed a critical hit for the one-shot. Kingdra KO'd my Parasect before I could Spore, so I tried to poison it with Beedrill's Tornado instead, but it lowered my accuracy. So I switched out to get rid of that drop, and luckily she went for Hyper Beam on the turn that I execute, so I got a free turn afterwards, which she used to hit Kingdra with Hyper Fang, taking it down and getting us our final badge. Well, I had to go to the Dragon stand for it because Claire is a terrible loser, but I did also get a Dratini for this with Extreme Speed. This actually isn't Dratini's signature move, it is Outrage, but it's Arcanite's signature move, because only it can learn it naturally, What Rotini only can have is a gift Pokemon, but it's still a signature move, so with my rules, I can use it. I also caught a Krabby, which will get a signature move later. Before Pokemon League there was one last rival battle. The only interesting thing here is that Parasect didn't have Spore anymore. Most of my grinding in this challenge was done using the Daycare, but if your Pokemon passes the level where it learns a move, the first move slot gets replaced by that, and because there is no mover learner, I had to get a new Paras. Before finding one, I actually found a shiny Caterpie while on call with a friend, so that was very neat. This was my team for the Elite Four. Raticate with Hyper Fang and Super Fang, Beedrill with Tornadle, the new Parasect with Spore, Machoke with Vital Throw, my now Dragonair with Extreme Speed, and the Krabby which is now a Kingler with Crabhammer. Time for the first Elite Four member, Will, the Psychic Specialist. Raticate could 2-shot Sadu, but it's only if it didn't hit itself in Confusion, so I had to reset some runs because of that, especially since I also need a Raticate to 2-shot the Jinx as well. Luckily on this run it hit itself in Confusion 0 out of 3 times, so we were fine. I used Hyper Fang once more against Executor and then finished it with a 4 times effective Tornado. I got a bit of chip damage on the second Satu with Crabhammer, putting it in range for 2 extreme speeds from Dragonair to finish the job. Last was Slowbro, and with the classic Spore Tornado combo, it wasn't hard to take down. Against Koga I actually used Super Fang for the first time. It was mainly for saving Hyper Fang PP because I would need 2 hits anyways, like against his Ariados and Venomoth, which both went down to Super Fang plus Hyper Fang. Because Fortress is a physical wall, I used Kingler with his Crabhammer and 50 base special attack, but it was still enough for a 3-hit KO. I just kept spamming Crabhammer against Muk and Kingler chipped it down to around 20% before going down itself, letting Dragonair clean up. Crobat was quite annoying, but a combination of Raticate's Hyper Fang and Dragonair's extreme speed was enough to seal the deal. Bruno left with Hitmontop, which apparently doesn't have a fighting type move, so I used Raticate to take it down. Speaking of surprising wins, I also took down Hitmonlee with only Tornadle. Hitmonlee swaggered Beedrill, so the Tornadoes were stronger and the poison chip damage helped out over time. After clicking on Tornadle one more time, I used Machoke to pretty easily finish his Hitmonchan. Machamp was a lot scarier, but I got quite lucky with first a Quick Claw activation with Parasect, putting it to sleep before it could move, and Raticate dodged a cross jump after Machamp woke up, so it could finish the job. The fight against Karen went decently well until she sent out Gengar. I didn't have much for it with a lot of moves being out of PP, so I was basically forced to reset my Elite Four run. I grinded up my team a few levels, got a couple PP restoring items like Ethers, and since it was now Tuesday, I also got the Pink Bow which boosts normal type moves. Umbreon went down to Spore plus Tornadle, Houndoom got one shot by Machoke's Vital Throw, and Vileplume faded after a Super Hyper Fang combo. Gengar paralyzed my Kingler, making it unable to attack twice in a row, but the 50% that Gengar took from using Curse and the small chip damage from Tornadle eventually put it in range for when I brought Kingler back in, and one Crabhammer finished the Gengar, and Murkrow was no problem for my Raticate. It was now time to challenge the champion, Lance. Hyper Fang did more than half of Gyarados' HP, so after a Spore I just clicked Super Fang and Hyper Fang with Raticate and took them down. I used the same strategy for his first Dragonite, but Parasect took a lot of damage from Hyper Beam in the process. I got lucky though with a Quick Claw activation against the second Dragonite, and a lot of sleep turns allowed me to repeat this awful strategy once again. For his Aerodactyl I was hoping that Machoke could take 2 wing attacks with the Gold Berry, but it went down after the second hit anyways. It did manage to land a Vital Throw earlier, putting Aerodactyl in range for my Kingler's Crabhammer. I got yet another Quick Claw activation against his third Dragonite, putting her to sleep as well, but this time a Full Restore woke him up, and after a miss Hyper Fang, Raticate went down to Outrage, although at this point Dragonair could easily clean up with extreme speed. Last was Charizard, and Dragonair could take the flamethrowers pretty well, and extreme speed eventually finished the Charizard, making us the new Johto champions. Although we're now in the Hall of Fame, there is still the whole Kanto region left to discover. Dragonair evolved into Dragonite, and with the Silver Wing I got in Pure City, I decided to catch Lugia, but then found out it can only have a signature move Aeroblast in Silver, and Ho-Oh can only have Sacred Fire in Gold. They are both level 1 moves in Crystal, but there's no move learner as I said earlier, so that doesn't help. Most Kanto gym battles aren't that interesting, except the one against Blue. Raticate managed to 1v1 a Pidgeot, but took quite some damage in the process. Dragonite easily took Alakazam's Psychic and did a lot of damage in return with Extreme Speed, and Rhino got one shot by Crabhammer after it missed twice. The second Tornadle hit landed a critical hit against Executor, making it do enough damage to finish it in one blow. Or well, 2. Arcanine and Dragonite had a battle of extreme speeds, but because Dragonite was faster and it landed a critical hit, it won at 1v1, and last was Gyarados, which took 1 extreme speed and finished Dragonite, but then got taken out on the turn that it had to recharge from Hyper Beam. To prepare for Red, I grinded my whole team to around level 61, making Dragonite finally learn Outrage. Then it was time for the final battle. Red always used a full restore on Pikachu twice, so I clicked support 3 times, wasting his full restores and eventually putting Pikachu to sleep for more than 1 turn, so Raticate could knock it out. Espeon was quite strong, almost OHKOing Parasect, but I managed to get off a Spore and then took it down with Twinneedle. I immediately went into Machoke and Snorlax because it's Snore for if I use Spore. Machoke actually lost at 1v1 because Body Slam did over half of my HP and Snorlax somehow outsped, but it was now in range for Dragonite's extreme speed. Super plus Hyper Fang did some decent damage against Blastoise before Raticate went down and Dragonite could once again clean up. Crabhammer did a very sad amount of damage against Charizard, so once again up to Dragonite, which finished it with Outrage. Venusaur was last and it didn't have a good way to hit Beedrill, so after a lot of turns of spamming Twinneedle, Red's final Pokemon went down, completing this challenge for good. So to answer the question of can I beat Pokemon Crystal using only signature moves, yes, kinda. I can start with one, but I can't get one soon enough that I can anyways. It was a pretty interesting challenge, but it was a bit too much just spamming the same moves in my opinion. The planning was a lot of fun, but the battles were a bit less exciting, and it was also quite disappointing to see how little signature moves I could actually get during a normal playthrough. If you enjoyed this video anyways, I have a playlist of other playthrough challenge videos linked in the description. Next month I'll be attempting to beat Pokemon Sapphire using only the move Assist. If you have any suggestions for future challenges, let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this video, I'll see you next time and of course, stay alive.